The lights in the command room flickered red. Admiral Kevin Torres stood at the center of the room, his hands gripped tight behind his back. He was 62 years old, with gray hair and deep lines on his face. Each line told a story of war, loss, and hard choices. But nothing had prepared him for the news coming through the screens in front of him. "Admiral, the colony is gone," said Commander Laura Bennett. She stood at the main console, her voice steady but her eyes filled with pain. "Kepler, 442b. 17,000 people. The Valorians hit them at dawn, local time. There were no survivors." The room went silent. Officers stood frozen at their stations. Some looked down at their boots. Others stared at the screens, showing the smoking ruins of what had once been a thriving human settlement. Buildings turned to rubble. Fields burned black. Bodies scattered like broken dolls across the landscape. Kevin Torres said nothing for a long moment. He had seen death before. He had lost soldiers, friends, and even his own son in the first Valorian attack 18 months ago. But this was different. This was the third time. The third massacre. The third time the Valorians had come out of nowhere and killed innocent people who had done nothing wrong. "How did they get past our defense grid?" asked Captain Greg Morrison. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a scar running down his left cheek. He commanded the carrier Defiance, the largest ship in Earth's public fleet. "We had sensors covering that entire sector." Laura Bennett pulled up a tactical display. "They used a new approach vector, coming in from behind the system's star. Our sensors were blinded by the radiation. By the time we detected them, they had already launched their attack." "Clever," Greg Morrison said bitterly. "They're learning." Admiral Torres finally spoke. His voice was low and rough, like stones grinding together. "No. They're not learning. They're testing us. Each attack, they push a little harder. Each time, they watch how we respond. And each time, we respond with words. With diplomacy. With requests for peace." He turned to face his officers. His eyes were dark and tired. But there was something else there now. Something that made even the bravest soldiers in the room take a step back. "I have spent 2 years asking the Valorian Dominion for peace. I have sent ambassadors. I have offered trade agreements. I have done everything in my power to avoid another war." He paused. "And they have answered me with the blood of my people." The room remained silent. Everyone knew what the Admiral was thinking. Everyone had been thinking the same thing for months. But no one had dared to say it out loud. Commander Bennett spoke first. "Sir, the Council will want another diplomatic mission. They'll say we need to give peace one more chance." "Peace?" Torres turned to her, his voice rising. "What peace? The Valorians don't want peace. They want us gone. They see humanity as insects crawling across their territory. They've told us this to our faces. They've laughed at our offers of friendship." He pointed at the screen showing the ruined colony. "This is their answer to peace. This is what they think of our outstretched hand." Captain Morrison stepped forward. "Admiral, there's another option, one we've never used." Torres looked at him. "Go on." "Christ. Project Horizon," Morrison said quietly. "The Council has kept it secret for 30 years. Hidden facilities, advanced weapons, ships that make everything in our public fleet look like toys." He met the Admiral's eyes. "We've been holding back, sir. Pretending to be weaker than we are, hoping we'd never need to use what we really have." Admiral Torres nodded slowly. He knew about Project Horizon. He was one of the few people who did. For decades, Earth had hidden its true military power from the rest of the galaxy. The reason was simple: fear. Not fear of attack, but fear of what humanity might become if it showed its strength. The Council believed that power corrupted. They believed that if humanity revealed its weapons, other species would see them as a threat. Arms races would begin. Wars would spread. The galaxy would burn, so they had kept the secret. They had let alien species look down on them. They had accepted insults and threats and even attacks, all in the name of peace. But there was a limit. There had to be a limit. "Contact Earth," Admiral Torres said. "Tell President Lawson I need to speak with her immediately. Tell her it's time." Laura Bennett hesitated. "Sir, are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. The galaxy will know what we are." Torres looked at the screen one more time. He saw the faces of the dead. He saw children who would never grow up. He saw families torn apart. He saw his son's face among them, even though his son had died on a different world, in a different attack, under the same Valorian guns. "The galaxy will know what we are," he repeated softly. "Good. Let them know. Let them all know." He walked to the communication station and entered his command codes. A channel opened to Valorian space, broadcasting on all frequencies. Every ship, every station, every world under Valorian control would hear his words. "This is Admiral Kevin Torres of the United Earth Defense Command," he said. His voice was calm now, almost gentle. "Your forces have attacked our people 3 times. You have killed our children. You have burned our homes. You have ignored every offer of peace we have made." He paused, letting the words sink in across the stars. "This is your final warning. Attack us again, and you will be destroyed. Not defeated. Not pushed back. Destroyed. Every ship. Every station. Every world. We have shown you patience. We have shown you mercy. We will not show you mercy again." He ended the transmission and turned to his officers. Their faces were pale, but there was something else in their eyes now. Hope. "Now," Admiral Torres said, "we wait. And we prepare. Because they won't listen. They never do." He was right. Within 48 hours, the Valorian High Command would respond to his message. Not with words, not with diplomacy. With war, and humanity would finally show the galaxy what it truly was. The message from Admiral Torres spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every species with a communication network had heard it. On trading stations and colony worlds, on warships and pleasure cruisers, beings of every shape and size listened to the humans' words and wondered what they meant. Most of them laughed. On the Valorian homeworld, Overlord Sithrak sat on his throne of black stone and watched the transmission for the 5th time. He was massive. Even for a Valorian, his scales were deep purple, marking him as royalty. His yellow eyes never blinked as he listened to the human admiral threaten his empire. When the message ended, Sithrak threw back his head and laughed. The sound echoed through his throne room like thunder. His advisors, standing in neat rows before him, joined in the laughter. It was expected. When the Overlord laughed, everyone laughed. "These humans," Sithrak said, his voice dripping with amusement. "These small, soft, short-lived creatures. They threaten us? They threaten the Valorian Dominion, which has ruled this sector for 10,000 years. It is absurd, my lord," said his chief advisor, a thin Valorian named Krath. "Our scouts have studied their fleet. They have perhaps 200 warships, most of them old and slow. We have 3,000, Sithrak nodded, his long tail sweeping across the floor. They are desperate. Like cornered animals, they bare their teeth and hope we will be frightened." He stood from his throne, towering over everyone in the room. "We will not be frightened. We will teach them what happens to insects who dare to threaten their betters." He turned to his military commander. "Prepare the 4th Fleet, 300 of our finest warships. We will strike at their home system. We will burn their precious Earth to ash and scatter their species to the void." The commander bowed low. "It will be done, Overlord." Far across the galaxy, on Earth, President Amy Lawson stood before the United Nations General Assembly. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every nation on the planet. Cameras broadcast her image to billions of people watching from their homes, their offices, their ships sailing between the stars. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice strong and clear. "You have all heard Admiral Torres's message to the Valorian Dominion. Some of you are afraid. Some of you think we have made a terrible mistake. I am here to tell you the truth. Also, She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. For 30 years, our governments have kept a secret. We told ourselves it was for the best. We told ourselves that hiding our strength would keep us safe, would prevent wars, would show the galaxy that humanity came in peace. She shook her head slowly. We were wrong. Our restraint was seen as weakness. Our offers of friendship were seen as fear. And our people have paid the price with their lives. The hall was completely silent. Not a single person moved. Today, I am authorizing the full activation of Project Horizon. Our hidden fleets. Our advanced weapons. Technologies that we have developed in secret for 3 decades. She lifted her chin. The Valorians believe they are coming to destroy a weak and helpless species. They are wrong. They are coming to face the full might of humanity, and they will learn, as all who threaten us will learn, that we are not prey. We are not victims. We are not afraid. Across the galaxy, other species watched the human president's speech with growing unease. The Keth Collective, one of the oldest civilizations in known space, held an emergency council meeting. The Keth were strange beings, existing partly in normal space and partly in dimensions humans could not perceive. They had watched younger species rise and fall for millions of years. We should warn the Valorians, said one of the Keth elders. They do not understand what they face. Would they listen? Asked another. Probably not. But we should try. The humans have been quiet for too long. Patient for too long. When patient creatures finally act, the results are often catastrophic. The Keth sent a message to Overlord Sithrak. It was short and simple. Do not mistake human restraint for human weakness. Turn back your fleet. Seek peace, while peace is still possible. Sithrak read the message and deleted it without reply. The Keth were ancient fools, he decided. They had grown soft and cowardly over the ages. They had forgotten what it meant to be strong. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Nevada desert on Earth, Dr. Nathan Cole walked through the largest underground facility ever built by human hands. The tunnels stretched for miles in every direction, filled with machines and weapons that had never seen the light of day. President Lawson walked beside him, flanked by Secret Service agents who looked nervous. They had never been down here before. Few people had. This is impossible, one of the agents whispered, staring at a ship that hovered silently in a massive hangar. It was sleek and black, shaped like nothing he had ever seen. How long has this been here? 22 years, Dr. Cole said calmly. This is the Phantom-class cruiser. It can travel faster than light without using jump gates. It can bend light around itself to become invisible. And its weapons can cut through any known armor in the galaxy. President Lawson stopped before a massive view screen showing the full scope of Project Horizon. Hundreds of ships, thousands of weapons, technologies that seemed like magic. Will it be enough? She asked quietly. Dr. Cole considered the question. Madam President, we've spent 30 years preparing for this moment. We've studied every species in the galaxy. We've anticipated every threat. We've built weapons they cannot imagine and defenses they cannot break. He looked at her with calm confidence. The Valorians are sending 300 ships. We could stop them with 30, but we won't. We'll show them everything. We'll show the entire galaxy what humanity is capable of. And then we hope they're smart enough to never threaten us again. In Valorian space, the Fourth Fleet gathered. 300 warships, each one bristling with weapons that had conquered a dozen species. Commanders boasted about the glory they would win. Soldiers sharpened their claws and dreamed of human blood. They jumped toward Earth's solar system, confident in their victory. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Valorian Fourth Fleet emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter. 300 warships hung in the darkness of space, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Veth looked out at the giant planet and smiled with satisfaction. They had arrived exactly where they planned. Earth was only hours away. Scan the area, Veth ordered. Find the human fleet. His sensor officer ran the scans and frowned. Commander, I'm not detecting any ships. The area appears to be empty. Veth leaned forward in his chair. Empty? That's impossible. Check again. The officer checked again. And again. Each time, the result was the same. There was nothing there. No ships, no stations, no defenses of any kind. They've run, Veth said, his voice filled with contempt. The humans have fled. All that talk about destroying us. And they run like cowards when we actually come. Laughter spread through the bridge. The crew mocked the humans and their empty threats. Some began placing bets on how quickly they could burn Earth to ash. In Valorian space, Overlord Sithrak watched the fleet's progress through a real-time connection. He sat back on his throne, pleased with himself. He had been right. The humans were all talk and no action. Their warning had been nothing but desperate words from a dying species. Proceed to Earth, Sithrak commanded through the link. Destroy everything. Leave nothing standing. Commander Veth acknowledged the order and turned his fleet toward the inner solar system. 300 ships moved in perfect formation, a wall of death approaching the human homeworld. They passed Jupiter's largest moon and continued inward. That's when everything changed. Captain Katie Reyes sat in the command chair of the stealth cruiser Silent Thunder. She was 34 years old, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. Her ship was hidden in the shadow of Jupiter itself, completely invisible to Valorian sensors. Around her, the true human fleet waited in silence. Admiral Torres, she said quietly into her communicator, the Valorians have taken the bait. They're moving toward Earth. They think we've run. Admiral Torres's voice came back calm and steady. Let them come. Let them get comfortable. Then we show them who they're dealing with. Katie Reyes watched her tactical display as the enemy fleet moved past their hiding spot. She counted the ships. 300. Exactly as intelligence had predicted. She almost felt sorry for them. Almost. All ships. This is Admiral Torres. The Admiral's voice now broadcast to the entire hidden fleet. You know what's at stake. You know what they've done to our people. Today, we end this. Today, we show them what humanity really is. On my mark, drop the veil. 800 human warships powered up their engines. Shields activated. Weapons charged. Ships that had been invisible suddenly blazed with light and energy. On the Valorian flagship, alarm screamed. Commander! The sensor officer shouted, his voice high with panic. Ships! Hundreds of ships appearing behind us. Veth spun around to look at the tactical display. His yellow eyes went wide with shock. Where there had been empty space, there was now a wall of human vessels. More ships than he had ever seen in one place. And they weren't like any ships in the human public records. They were bigger, sleeker, more advanced. That's impossible, he whispered. Where did they come from? Before anyone could answer, more ships appeared. Then more. The human fleet kept growing, surrounding the Valorian formation from all sides. Some of the human ships seemed to flicker and shift, appearing in multiple locations at once. Others were so black that they swallowed light itself. Commander Scott Palmer, the tactical coordinator aboard the carrier Defiance, watched the Valorian fleet with grim satisfaction. He could see the confusion in their movements. Ships breaking formation. Commanders screaming for information. Pure chaos. Admiral, Palmer reported, the Valorians are in disarray. They don't know what to do. Open a channel, Torres ordered. A moment later, Admiral Torres's face appeared on every screen in the Valorian fleet. His expression was calm, almost sad. Commander Veth, Torres said, I am going to give you one chance. One chance to save your fleet and your people. Turn your ships around and leave our space. Go back to your overlord and tell him what you saw here today. Tell him that humanity is not what he thought. Tell him that if he ever sends another ship against us, we will not be so merciful. On his bridge, Commander Veth struggled to regain his composure. His crew was looking at him, waiting for orders. He was terrified, but he could not show it. Overlord Sithrak was watching through the communication link. To retreat would mean death. The Overlord did not tolerate failure. You're bluffing, Veth said, though his voice shook. These ships are tricks, holograms, illusions to frighten us. They're not illusions, Torres replied. You can scan them yourself. You can see they're real. But if you need proof. He paused and looked off-screen. Captain Reyes. Give them a demonstration. Disable their lead destroyer. Don't destroy it. Just disable it. Katie Reyes smiled. With pleasure, Admiral. The silent thunder moved faster than any ship should be able to move. One moment it was behind Jupiter. The next, it was directly in front of the Valorian destroyer. Twin beams of white light shot from its bow and struck the destroyer's engines. The massive Valorian ship went dark immediately, drifting powerless in space. The attack had taken less than 3 seconds. On the Valorian flagship, every officer stared at their screens in disbelief. Their most powerful destroyer, a ship that had conquered entire worlds, had been disabled in the blink of an eye, by a single human vessel. Admiral Torres spoke again. That was one ship, Commander. We have 800. Each one is faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything you've ever faced. We've been hiding our true power for 30 years. We didn't want this fight. We wanted peace. But you refused peace. You killed our people. You forced our hand. He leaned forward, his eyes hard. Now make your choice. Leave and live. Stay and die. You have 60 seconds. Commander Veth looked at Overlord Sithrak's image on his private screen. The Overlord's face was twisted with fury. Attack them, Sithrak screamed. Destroy them all. I command you. Veth closed his eyes. He was a soldier. He followed orders, even orders that would get him killed. All ships, he said quietly, open fire. The battle for humanity's future had begun. The Valorian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of plasma bolts streaked across the darkness of space. Missiles by the hundreds launched toward the human ships. Energy beams capable of cutting through moons stabbed out at their enemies. It was the most concentrated firepower the Valorian Dominion had ever unleashed. None of it mattered. The human ships didn't even try to dodge. They simply sat there as the Valorian weapons struck their shields. Blue light flared around each vessel as the attacks were absorbed, redirected, and dissipated into harmless energy. Not a single human ship took damage. Not a single shield failed. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Greg Morrison watched the display with quiet satisfaction. Admiral Torres. Enemy fire is having zero effect. Our shields are holding at 100%. Understood, Torres replied. All ships, begin the response. Remember your orders. Disable only. We are not here to commit genocide. We are here to teach a lesson. The human fleet moved forward. Lieutenant Megan Walsh gripped the controls of her fighter as she led her squadron into battle. She was 26 years old and had dreamed of being a pilot since she was a little girl, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this. The new fighters were so fast, so responsive, that flying them felt like thinking. She wanted to turn, and the ship turned. She wanted to accelerate, and the ship leaped forward like a striking snake. Stay in formation, she told her squadron. Target their engine systems. Weapons second. Life support never. We're not killers. Her fighters swept toward a group of Valorian cruisers. The enemy ships tried to track them, but they were too slow. Far too slow. Megan's squadron danced through their defensive fire like leaves in the wind, then struck with surgical precision. Engines exploded. Weapons went dark. One by one, the Valorian cruisers went dead in space. 6 down, Megan reported. No casualties on our side. Moving to next targets. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated again and again. Human ships closed with the Valorian fleet and systematically took them apart. The carrier Defiance alone disabled 40 enemy vessels in the first 20 minutes. Captain Katie Reyes and her Silent Thunder moved like a ghost, appearing from nowhere to cripple ship after ship before vanishing again. Commander Veth watched his fleet being destroyed around him. His flagship shook as human weapons struck his shields. Alarms blared. Officers shouted damage reports. But the worst part was the silence from his weapons officers. They were firing constantly, but nothing was working. Every shot that hit a human ship simply disappeared. How? Veth whispered. How is this possible? His first officer looked at him with fear in his yellow eyes. "Commander, we need to retreat. We're being slaughtered. The Overlord ordered us to fight." "The Overlord isn't here," the first officer shouted. "We're dying. Our ships are dying. We need to run." Before Veth could respond, his communications officer spoke up. "Commander, we're being hailed. It's the human admiral." Veth straightened in his chair. Whatever happened, he would face it with dignity. "Put him through." Admiral Torres appeared on the screen. Behind him, Veth could see the human command center. Officers moved calmly at their stations. There was no panic, no urgency. They were winning so easily that they weren't even stressed. "Commander Veth," Torres said, "look at your tactical display. Really look at it." Veth looked. Of his 300 ships, 200 had already been disabled. They drifted in space, dark and powerless. But as he looked closer, he noticed something strange. None of them were destroyed, not one. The human weapons had been incredibly precise, taking out engines and weapons while leaving life support intact. His crews were alive. Helpless, but alive. "We could have killed every one of your people," Torres said quietly. "We have weapons that could destroy your ships in seconds. We could have turned this entire area into a graveyard." He paused. "We chose not to." Veth said nothing. He couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. "Surrender, Commander. Tell your remaining ships to stand down. We will disable them without casualties. We will tend to your wounded. We will repair your vessels enough to send you home." Torres's voice softened. "This doesn't have to end with more death. We've proven our point. Now, let it end." On his private screen, Overlord Sithrak was screaming. His face had turned dark purple with rage. "Fight! Fight to the last ship! I command you!" Veth reached over and turned off the connection. "All ships," he said over the fleet-wide channel. "Stand down. Power down, weapons and shields. The battle is over." He looked at the human admiral. "We surrender." Torres nodded. "A wise choice, Commander. Your courage will be remembered." The remaining Valorian ships went dark, their weapons falling silent. Human vessels moved among them, sending rescue teams to damaged ships, treating wounded crews, beginning the slow process of repair. Back on Earth, Dr. Nathan Cole watched the data streaming in from the battle. The human weapons had performed perfectly. The shields had held without any problems. The new engines had given them speed and mobility beyond anything the Valorians could match, and they had only used 10% of their capabilities. The really advanced weapons, the ones that could crack planets and dim stars, had never even been activated. "It's done," he said to no one in particular. "It's finally done." In the command center, Admiral Torres prepared one final message. This one would go not to the Valorian fleet, but to Overlord Sithrak himself. It would be broadcast across all Valorian frequencies, so every citizen of their empire would hear it. "Overlord Sithrak," Torres began, "your fleet is defeated. Your ships will be repaired and returned to you. Your crews will be treated with dignity and respect. Because that is who we are. We do not kill when we don't have to. We do not torture or enslave or destroy for pleasure." He took a breath. "But understand this. We showed you mercy today. Mercy you never showed us. Mercy you do not deserve. If your people ever threaten humanity again, if you ever attack our colonies, harm our citizens, or violate our space, we will not show mercy a second time. We will come to your worlds. We will find every Valorian ship, every station, every outpost, and we will end you, completely, forever." He let the words hang in the silence. "Tell your people, Overlord, make them understand. This is Earth's final warning. Do not make us give you another one." The transmission ended. Across the Valorian Empire, billions of citizens watched in stunned silence. Their invincible fleet, defeated. Their overlord, humiliated. And the humans, The weak and soft humans they had mocked for so long now stood revealed as something else entirely, something terrifying, something merciful, and that combination, they were beginning to understand, was the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. 6 months passed since the battle near Jupiter. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. On the Valorian homeworld, Overlord Sithrak was gone. His own people had removed him from power 3 weeks after the defeat. They dragged him from his throne of black stone and threw him into a prison cell, where he would spend the rest of his life thinking about his mistakes. The new government, led by a council of moderates, had immediately requested peace talks with Earth. The negotiations had been difficult at first. Many humans wanted revenge. They wanted the Valorians to suffer for what they had done to the colonies. But President Amy Lawson had been firm. Revenge was not justice. Punishment would not bring back the dead. The goal was to build a future where no more humans had to die. The treaty was signed on a neutral space station, witnessed by representatives from a dozen species. The Valorians agreed to pay reparations to the families of those killed in their attacks. They agreed to share their star charts and technology. Most importantly, they agreed to never again threaten human space. In exchange, humanity agreed to peace. No invasion. No occupation. No revenge. Commander Veth, who had surrendered his fleet rather than see more of his people die, became the Valorian ambassador to Earth. It was a strange appointment, but it made sense. Veth had seen what humans were capable of. He had also seen their mercy. He believed, more than anyone else in the Valorian government, that peace was the only path forward. On Earth, celebrations gave way to quiet relief. The war was over before it really began. Humanity had shown its strength without becoming monsters. That mattered. That mattered more than anyone could say. Admiral Kevin Torres retired from military service a month after the battle. He said he was tired, and that was true. But the real reason was simpler. He had done what he needed to do. He had protected his people. He had honored his son's memory. Now it was time to rest. He bought a small house on the coast of Maine, where the waves crashed against rocky shores and the air smelled of salt and pine. Every morning, he walked to a small memorial he had built on the cliff overlooking the ocean. It was a simple stone, with his son's name carved into it. He would stand there for an hour, sometimes more, just watching the water and remembering. Captain Katie Reyes received a promotion to admiral. She was young for such a high rank, but no one questioned the decision. She had proven herself in battle. More importantly, she had proven herself in peace. She understood that the goal was never to destroy enemies, but to make them into friends. Her first act as admiral was to begin training a new generation of officers, not just in tactics and weapons, but in diplomacy and restraint. The galaxy now knew what humanity could do. The next generation needed to understand when not to do it. Lieutenant Megan Walsh left the military to become a teacher. She had seen enough fighting. Now she wanted to help children dream of the stars without fearing what might be waiting there. She taught at a school on Mars, where her students looked up at the sky and saw not danger, but possibility. The Keth Collective, the ancient civilization that had warned the Valorians before the battle, sent a private message to President Lawson. It was an invitation to meet. The president traveled to the Keth homeworld, a place few outsiders had ever seen. The Keth elders met her in a chamber that existed partly outside normal space. Time moved strangely there. Light bent in impossible ways. It was beautiful and terrifying and wonderful. "We have watched humanity for a long time," the eldest Keth said. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We wondered what kind of species you would become. Would you be conquerors, like so many before you? Would you burn and destroy and take?" President Lawson stood straight and met the elders' strange eyes. "We're not perfect. We've made mistakes. We'll make more. But we try to be better. We try to learn." "Yes," the Keth said. "That is what we saw. You had the power to destroy the Valorians completely. Your weapons could have ended their species in days. Instead, you chose restraint. You chose mercy. You showed them what they could become, rather than punishing them for what they were. The elder moved closer, its form shifting and flowing like water. That is why we believe humanity may one day lead this galaxy. Not through force, but through example. Not through fear, but through hope. President Lawson returned to Earth with a new alliance. The Keth would share their knowledge with humanity, technologies millions of years old, wisdom gathered from watching civilizations rise and fall. It was a gift beyond measure, given because humanity had proven itself worthy. Dr. Nathan Cole shut down the weapons facilities beneath Nevada. The advanced ships remained, maintained and ready in case they were ever needed again. But the focus now shifted to other things. Engines that could cross the galaxy in days. Medical technology that could cure any disease. Machines that could turn dead worlds into gardens. The weapons had been necessary. But they were never the point. On a small colony world at the edge of human space, a young girl named Maya stood outside her home and looked up at the night sky. She was 7 years old, with dark hair and curious eyes. The stars spread above her like diamonds scattered on black cloth. Her mother came outside and stood beside her. "What are you looking at?" "The stars," Maya said. "There are so many of them." "What's out there?" Her mother smiled and put an arm around her daughter's shoulders. "Friends we haven't met yet." Maya thought about that for a moment. "Will I get to meet them someday?" "If you want to. You can be whatever you want to be, go wherever you want to go. That's what the people before us fought for. So that you could have that choice." Maya looked up at the stars for a long time. She didn't know about the battles that had been fought or the sacrifices that had been made. She didn't know about Admiral Torres standing at his son's memorial, or President Lawson negotiating peace, or Dr. Cole building wonders in underground labs. All she knew was that the universe was vast and full of mysteries, and that she couldn't wait to explore it. That was humanity's gift to the next generation. Not weapons or power or fear. Hope. The stars waited. And humanity, finally taking its place among them, walked forward with open hands and curious hearts, ready to meet whatever the universe had to offer. The final warning had been given, and it had worked. Not because humanity was strong, but because humanity had proven it was more than its strength. It was also kind, and that, in the end, made all the difference.